Because it's embarrassing to have a microphone and... Is it recording? If you keep that in, I'll kill us both. Upstairs at... Shut up! Upstairs at Froelich Upstairs at Froelich, show 423, Larry David's New Nightmare, Reel 1.
This is Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which this is Wes Craven desperately trying to end the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise by turning Freddy into just what we all saw him as, a fictitious character in a made up horror movie franchise.
I love the spin he put on it. So like I said, it is the first ever meta horror film, self-referential. They got everyone and their mother to come back for this movie. I don't know how Wes did it, but apparently all these people that worked with Wes, they loved the man, and they wanted to work with him again. It was just, I guess, I don't call it a Nightmare on Elm Street sequel. I don't consider the movie a sequel in any way, shape, or form. Yes, it's packaged in with the Freddy collections and all that other stuff. It's just a good standalone movie because you take, it was written from this perspective that writing these movies kept the demon that was known as Freddy Krueger at bay, but now that the stories have stopped, the demon can now come out into the real world.
Is this the first, though? Is this the first of what we see as far as what we call meta or self-referential?
I would really want to say yes, because
do you think he created it?
I think he had a hand in it, because why else would they pick Wes Craven? Because remember, Wes Craven did not write the Scream movies. He was a hired director for the job. Why would you hire Wes Craven if he already hadn't, proven that he made a good movie out of it anyway? I mean, because I guess to start it off like this, Wes Craven's New Nightmare was not successful. It came out during an era of slasher and horror fatigue.
It was the end. It
was the end of it. It was made for $8 million, and it made a little under 20. It made between 19 and $20 million. The movie, dude, I remember begging on my hands and knees from my mom to take me to see it. It was playing at our local theater. Right. What did I get? No.
No. Well, you were like, what, 9, 10
12.
years old?
I was 12, and I owned all the fucking... Dude, I had owned all these movies on VHS from fucking Kmart, dude.
I don't even know that this movie is as intensely violent as the previous ones. It's definitely nowhere near as violent as the first Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, it's got some fucking sick scenes.
There are a couple of callbacks, like Heather's babysitter. The way she dies is very similar to the way that Tina dies. It's not as bloody or as gross.
But I really like the idea of the story, like how Wes is writing a new movie, and it's all this, it's full of fucking surrealism.
This is like Scream in that we're living in a universe where horror films exist. Nightmare on Elm Street exists. Heather Langenkamp is a real person. She's a real person, but she's playing a fictionalized version of herself, like Larry David in Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Exactly.
But this is Larry David's new nightmare, basically. She is herself an actress, and she is married to her special effects making husband, and they have a son. I don't know how much of this is close to reality. I know that she is married to someone who does visual effects, and they have their own visual effects company, right?
Yes.
And do they have a son? And I don't.
Well, they have.
I'm going to have to look up.
I guess here's the sad part of this. They did have children together, but from what I understand, one of their children did pass away.
Oh, okay. Yes, she is married to David Leroy Anderson, and he's an American makeup artist who has won 2 Academy Awards for makeup. One for The Nutty Professor and one for Men in Black. He worked with Rick Baker. So
he worked. Those were both. Well, what is it? Nutty Professor. Yeah, that was Rick Baker. So yeah, they both did under Rick Baker around that time.
And apparently, she met her husband at a rap party for Serpent and a Rainbow. She was at the rap party. I guess Wes Craven invited her. I guess they're friends. That's probably why he had the nerve to actually create a fictionalized version of herself. because he kind of knew her. And also, it does go back to my theory that I think that Wes Craven sees a lot of himself in Nancy. When he's writing Nancy, he's actually writing himself. But he decided to make it a girl because it's always funny when it happens to the girl instead of the guy. We want female victims in horror films, and that's generally why you see more.
That's the standard rule of thumb.
Yeah, the final girl. And
final girl.
She's the final girl. This is a fictionalized version of her. Yes, unfortunately, their son Daniel died of a brain tumor he died in 2018, but they have a daughter also named Isabel. Oh, didn't she also, she had a cameo in Shocker. So she was also in Shocker as well.
Oh, okay, yeah, I forgot about that.
She's really hard to spot because she doesn't look like herself. She's got all this makeup on. So she plays one of the victims. One of Mitch Pileggi's victims, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah. So Wes Craven makes a horror film about his horror film. They're working on a new Nightmare on Elm Street movie or project at the beginning of the movie, and her husband is doing the visual effects, doing the mechanical visual effects, right?
Yep.
The hand goes haywire because they're working on a robotic hand or something, right?
Yeah, they show Freddy cutting his hand off. But that's all in a dream sequence, though. That's a dream sequence.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
That's all in
that's
a dream
just
sequence.
A dream sequence.
It attacks the crew. She wakes up in the middle of an earthquake with her kids, and this is California life. This is just how it is. This is what really reminds me of Scream so much because it's amazing. It's all these, I guess, California locations, right? Scream takes place in Northern California, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It seems a lot.
Woodsboro, California, yeah.
It seems a lot greener, I guess where Heather lives is not because it looks like Los Angeles or something along those lines.
Well, yeah, because she's at the studio town because you remember she takes a quick ride over to New Line's offices.
Right.
In the movie. So she's apparently living outside or in Hollywood. Maybe she could be living in Malibu for all I fucking know. I don't know. I'm not California geographics. I'm not good with it. I'm good with Illinois geographics, just not California.
Did you see? Apparently, she made a documentary about herself called "I Am Nancy."
Yeah, I heard about that. I haven't watched it though.
She produced it. She made it, and it's like She also produced the "Never Sleep Again" documentary, which I really want to see.
Oh, you haven't seen that?
No, I haven't seen it because you
dude,
can't really...
I fucking bought that, man. I have that and the Friday the 13th documentary. I have both of those.
I can't find it. I'd have to buy it. Maybe I will buy it, but it is really long. I understand it's like 2 discs, right? 2 hours.
Yeah,
each.
It's 2 discs, but
it's
a
very comprehensive documentary, right?
It's extremely, and I told you that was the documentary I was telling you about, where the only people they couldn't get to come back were Johnny Depp and fucking Patricia Arquette
and Brecken. Don't forget.
And Breckin Meyer,
Lord Breckin Meyer.
Lord Breckin Meyer, yeah, he couldn't come back. But you compare that. I don't want to get too far off tangent, so I'm just going to make it quick. The same filmmakers who made the Never Sleep Again documentary also did the Crystal Lake Memories documentary, Friday the 13th one. Dude, how many people
I saw a little bit more of that though.
Fuck that documentary, man. You know how many people wouldn't fucking talk on camera about that movie? It's
one?
terrible. Nobody would talk.
Crystal Lake?
What's that?
The Crystal Lake documentary?
Yeah, the Crystal Lake documentary.
Wait,
Nobody
did they get Corey?
Of course they got fucking Corey. He narrated it.
Because he shows up to the opening of a bank. Did they get Crispin?
Fuck no.
They didn't get him?
Oh, dude, man. They didn't get Kevin Bacon. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, get the big omission, the one, I don't know if Sean Cunningham pissed on this guy's cornflakes. I have no idea. Steve Miner would not talk.
Wow. I wonder why.
I have no, dude.
He kind of owes his career. He owes his career to
Steve Miner had a career because of Sean Cunningham, because he was like assistant director or associate producer on the first movie. Then he went and directed the fucking next 2. Okay.
He's like the Tommy Lee Wallace of the Halloween franchise.
Why would you not talk? Why would you not interview? It's not like you have anything going on right now to put an hour of your day away to talk about how you made these movies.
That's
it's bullshit. That's why, dude, that fucking Jason documentary. Yes, I liked it, but it pissed me off how many people didn't want to fucking talk about it. Okay, Tom Matthews talked about it, but he's Tom Matthews.
Well, Tom Matthews is cool. He's a Facebook friend.
Yeah, he's a Facebook friend on my page too. I mean, dude, it's a crying shame how many people couldn't talk.
It could be any number of circumstances. Maybe they weren't available. Maybe they were scheduled. Maybe they were sick. Maybe they're dead. I remember David Pryor. I tried to get David Pryor for an interview, and I found out he was dead.
Died.
And I wrote on his page, "I'm sorry, I didn't know you were dead." You know.
Yeah.
I tried to get. I got Ted Pryor. Ted Pryor friended me.
Oh, that's
the
cool.
other day. That's pretty cool. Yeah. And he's a big movie fan. He's always posting movie shit. It's weird. There are really friendly people, and then there are some that are not so friendly. And you know, I tend to notice the bigger they are, the friendlier they are.
Yes. I mean, Bryan Cranston. There you go.
Bryan Cranston.
Again,
I met Bruce Willis. Bruce
before.
Willis is a nice guy. And by the way, he just celebrated his 68th birthday. Happy birthday, Bruce! And I hope he's doing well. But he was really nice to me. And I've heard terrible stories about Bruce Willis. It's weird.
I hear he's just nice in real life, but kind of like a diva on the set.
Tangles with directors, and he hates the media. He hates the press. He's always bitching about press, and he hates
bitches about the press. Yet he helps come up with. See, that's what makes no sense. He comes up with Planet Hollywood, yet he bitches about the press, and then how much press was it than Planet Hollywood locations?
I think the thing with Bruce is that they say the press, he is a certain way in interviews, and they write about him badly. And he doesn't like the way he's written about just because of the mood he happened to be in. I think that might be the issue.
I guess that's one way of looking at it. I don't know, but I mean, at least with the Freddy documentary, they damn near got everybody. Johnny Depp and Patricia Arquette. You can understand why. They had bigger fish to fry. But in the case of Breckin Meyer...
Bigger Amber Heards to fry.
Yeah. Oh, that's terrible.
I don't know about Patricia. She was busy polishing her Oscar.
Probably.
I mean, I love Patricia Arquette. She's a sweetie, but otherwise... she's also, has a lot of problems in relationships and stuff like that. I'll leave that shit alone. She's another relationship person.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage being one of them.
Yeah, and Tom Jane.
Yep, Tom Jane.
In this movie, Freddy comes after Heather Langenkamp, and it's really cool. I was just like, wow, I can't believe that.
Because he calls her Nancy. He never calls her Heather.
That's true. Everybody else calls her Heather. I mean, you know what, she's being harassed in her dreams by Freddy. Freddy has been a part of her life as an actress. This is an interesting... I put together some thoughts last night when I was thinking about this. Wes Craven actually does justice to these actors because we kind of get a sense of what it's like to be an actor in a movie like this, especially something as iconic as Nightmare on Elm Street. These people are remembered for nothing else but Nightmare on Elm Street. Heather Langenkamp, John Saxon, people like that.
I tend to remember John Saxon for a little more than that.
Not me. For me, he'll always be Nancy's dad. I know he was in a bunch of stuff.
Enter the Dragon, dude.
This is like before my time, though. These are the 70s and the 60s. John Saxon was in a couple of episodes of Alfred Hitchcock Presents as well. He was on Barnaby Jones. He was on Columbo. He was either playing pissed off cops or bad guys.
I get what you're saying, but you pretty much at the end of the day...
It's a little bit past my time. You know.
Everybody in
and
this
yours
movie,
too, Mr. Froelich.
I know. Everybody in this movie is remembered for A Nightmare on Elm Street, and everybody from The Nightmare on Elm Street remembered for A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Like Robert Englund, he'll never be anything else, you know. And he's in this movie too, and it's wonderful because I don't know. You feel like Wes actually knows these people, and he probably does because a director does live with his cast for a time when they're making movies. Robert Englund is like this soft-spoken dude. He cooks and he likes to paint. And I think that's because Wes knows him. So he's like, I'm going to write Robert Englund the way I know Robert Englund. He's not Freddy. He's just a guy who likes to paint and he likes to cook. You know?
I think he over-exaggerated Bob Shea a little bit, though. Like you said, you're talking about the whole office full of Freddy merchandise. I highly doubt Bob Shea's office looked like that.
Maybe he has one Freddy figure, and that's it. He's probably got a bunch of shit from The Mask. He's probably got a bunch of shit from Evil Dead, from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, from all the other stuff.
All that stuff. I love Sarah Risher shows up. She was with Bob Shea at the beginning. She worked with him. She was one of the people. One of the
producers. She was instrumental in making the Nightmare on Elm Street movies as well.
Yeah, and then I think did Rachel Talalay pop up in one or two scenes?
I don't know. The big shock to me was Tuesday night. I asked you the other day.
Yeah, and then you showed me that picture, and I was like, "Yep, that's Tuesday night."
I said, "Is this Tuesday night?" I mean,
and it makes no fucking sense.
It kind of does.
How?
She's in the movie.
Okay. How by the transitive property does she know Heather Langenkamp's husband?
I don't know. Maybe it's a big family. Who knows? I mean, okay. I found the picture, all right, and I'm putting it in, right, because I was collecting photographs for the show, and I saw it, and I was like, it looked like Tuesday night, so I messaged you and I said, "Is this Tuesday night?" And you're like, yeah, that totally is. Now, to answer your question, it was a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, so, and you got Bob Shaye's there too. Probably the entire administrative staff of New Line was at the funeral. Think about it that way. How about how about her husband, her fictitious husband, made visual effects for the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, knows Tuesday Night. You told me that one of the special effects guys married Linnea Quigley. Maybe it is a family kind of a thing.
It could be. I guess you're right. That's one way.
It was there, and it was also it was there. It was an Easter egg, right? So that people go, "Holy shit, it's Tuesday Night!" And there's Nick Corey there too.
Yep, but he had a reason to be there.
He did, I suppose. Where's Johnny? Where's Johnny?
Exactly.
Where's Brecken?
Where's Johnny? Where's
Patricia Arquette? Yeah, she was like, "Hey, you're the girl that replaced Patricia Arquette. What are you doing here?" She's like, "Fuck you, I was asked."
You see, that's the whole thing. It made way more fucking sense for Patricia Arquette to be there than Tuesday Night.
But they couldn't because Miss Arquette was busy.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like there are some fun little bits in here. Rob LaBelle was really awesome. He plays one of the special effects guys, and he's always comic relief in action movies too. Like Grant Heslov. Rob LaBelle and Grant Heslov are two interchangeable guys. They kind of look almost alike, and they usually play comic relief in any kind of action movie or anything.
Because all this stuff I don't watch. You see, I haven't watched the Freddy movies in a while, but I've
also W. Earl Brown is in this too.
Oh yeah, yeah, I know that.
Franks and Beans.
Franks and Beans.
Plus, he was in the great HBO show Carnival. Should watch that. Anybody who hasn't seen it, watch it.
I mean, at the end of the day, the story of this movie is simple. We already said what it was. I mean, it's just this gigantic meta movie. Man, the shit that came out of it, like all the other movies that came out of it, this was the one movie that actually got Wes Craven going again, if you really think about it.
Well, he took the Nightmare on Elm Street idea and just put it on its head. And he was also trying to kill it. I think he was really trying to kill it at that point. And when you think about it, there's nothing else after this except Freddy versus Jason and the remake.
And the remake. And
so, there are elements from different Nightmare on Elm Street movies that are into this. Her kid, for some reason, is a receptacle for Freddy. And it reminds me a lot of the Dream Child in that way.
And I like how they don't explain, and that's fine.
And it's a possession factor, too. There's a possession angle that sort of evokes memories of Freddy's Revenge.
A little bit.
Yeah, and visually, this movie, even though it doesn't have nearly as many visual sight gags going on, and the production design isn't as innovative, still looks more interesting than Freddy's Dead for some reason, and I don't quite.
Because this movie is way more grounded in reality. Like it does not go.
That's right. It's more serious.
Like the last half hour is when it starts, like the visual effects and everything start going, batshit crazy. The other thing you were talking about, how Freddy looks in this, I believe, if I'm correct, they switched effects companies on this movie. K&B did Freddy's makeup on this one.
There's also the fact that they're not lighting him. They're not lighting him to look scary. He's a lot of times there's some practical light and there's some even fluorescent light. Only until we get into the dream thing. It's an interesting thing here. When Heather gets into her dreams and goes and finds Freddy again in the boiler room and all that stuff, that's when we see what Freddy really is in the nightmares. In the daylight realistic scenes that aren't necessarily nightmares, he doesn't look as frightening. And also, for some reason, they put a coat on him. It's strange.
Yeah, they did like this whole weird. I get what you're saying, but they wanted to differentiate this Freddy from prior Freddys because this is not, your dad's Freddy Krueger. This is your kid's Freddy Krueger. So they wanted to they wanted to keep it the same Freddy, but dress him a little more different. Like hence why they had the mechanical hand versus the glove. The glove. He had a mechanical hand.
Yeah, and it also looked organic too. If you look at it, it's got bones on it.
Yeah, and it has muscle tissue and everything like that. Yeah. So
that's what it is. I'm just coming to this realization right now that you're seeing two Freddys here. You're seeing a Freddy at the beginning of the movie, and you're seeing a Freddy in the actual nightmare scenario, right? So he's more frightening there. And Nancy Heather has to go into this. She has to go into this world to rescue her son.
And her son is. And I love the look of the world. This is where that early CGI starts coming into play. That's the only thing I never liked about this movie was the CGI. This day and age does not hold up. I mean, some of it looks okay. It's still mostly practical effects, thank goodness. But when they get into some CGI shit, it just starts looking a little hokey.
I agree, but there are two points I want to bring up about this movie and what makes it really special.
Okay.
To me, anyway. Well, three. Let's say three. The first one is John Saxon in this movie. He is behaving very much like he's Heather's father. She looks to him as a father figure. I thought that was wonderful.
I love that. And it just shows they probably had a good relationship with each other, offset, and they became like a surrogate family. You know what I mean?
Wes writes him as a kind of surrogate father. It's wonderful to see. I really like that. There's something about that I found really beautiful, because even though he's an actor and he's playing her father in a movie, and then later in her life as an adult, and she's grown up, she still looks to him as a kind of a father figure. And I really like that a lot.
I was like, why do you keep calling me John?
Yeah.
Why do you keep calling me Nancy, John? Why do you keep calling me John?
And that gives her the indication she's not in the real world at that point.
Yes.
Now, the second point, I think, was, the scene where she talks to Wes Craven.
One of the best.
Wes Craven is not an actor. It's obvious. He's trying to act a little bit, but he's kind of, he's not an actor. Him and Shay, it's obvious they're not actors. They're just sort of doing a thing. They're given dialogue. Try to memorize it as best you can and just say it, right?
And just say, hey,
Heather's
look,
acting alongside.
It's like, hey, look, talk to me like we're in a business meeting, okay? Like, pretend you're not acting. Just talk to me like we're in a fucking business meeting or something.
I really hope, I hope that Heather directed him a little bit for that scene they do together.
I would bet she probably did. Like, gave him a few pointers. Like, hey, look, you're the director. I'm an actor. Let me give you some tips on how to do this.
Yeah. There's a wonderful moment in this scene at the end when we go over to Wes's computer monitor and the dialogue is exactly what they were saying.
Yes.
That was wonderful, and I have a shot of it.
It's a great
I thought
scene.
it was really great. My third point is that Wes sees in Nancy, and I guess by extension Heather, a surrogate for himself. I don't know that Wes Craven suffered nightmares. I don't know anything about the backstory. I never saw the documentary. Maybe there's a little bit about it in there. I'm not sure. But this movie is very much like a tribute to Nancy, as much as it is a tribute to Heather Langenkamp. It's like a poem to them. It's wonderful. And it sort of brings it home. Also with Robert Englund, too. I mean, they all have this shared history, and they kept coming back to it. And they came back to it at different points. This is 10 years removed from the first Nightmare on Elm Street. And then 3 years later, there was Dream Warriors. Those are the only times that Wes Craven was involved. Unless they called him every time the sequel came out. Wes, we're doing another sequel. Okay, great. Good luck.
Great. I'll just take the money that you kind of owe me.
I'll take the residuals.
I'll take the residuals. It's all good.
Don't leave out any zeros.
But at least New Line. At the end of the day, New Line made their peace with the man. Bob Shea especially probably sucked his collective dick and said, what, dude, make one more, finish, make it your own, but finish it off for good. We ain't doing any more after this. And we ended up getting we got an amazing movie out of it. It was so, it just goes so far beyond anything horror. It goes into real territory. It's like, I don't know why the 90s did this, but the 90s created this era of self-referential stuff. It created the era of snark. We call it snark. Snarky.
This is the era of Mystery Science Theater, a show I constantly pay tribute to on this show.
Yep.
If you're watching Upstairs at Froelich, sometimes people message me out of nowhere and they say, "Are you a Mystery Science Theater fan?" And I say, "Yes, I am." So, that explains it. So I do that a lot. But that was the era of snark, hypercriticism, and self-referential stuff. And then we called that meta in the 2000s.
Yep.
It seems like that's all everybody's doing. Everybody's doing this meta stuff now.
So do we say thank you, Wes Craven? Or should we
say fuck you, Wes Craven?
Fuck you, Wes Craven. That's exactly.
Curb Your Enthusiasm is one of my favorite shows. I would partially thank him for that. Wes Craven, the man is one of the architects of modern horror.
Yes.
He's up there with George Romero, John Carpenter, David Cronenberg, Sean Cunningham. He's up there with those guys.
Yeah, he's up there with the greats.
And after this movie, he would go on to this would be his renaissance, actually. It's strange. He made all these classics, but these classics were very little seen until these movies started coming out. They were big cult classics. A lot of people talk about them. A lot of people love them. But after this movie, he made Vampire in Brooklyn for Eddie Murphy.
Yep.
And that was There were a couple of conditions attached to that. The reason he was hired, I suspect, is because he knew how to work with a low budget. It was an Eddie Murphy movie for Paramount Pictures, but $17 million was considered a very low budget movie for the time.
And it was to get Eddie out of his contract.
Yes, it was his final movie in his Paramount contract and gave him freedom. So they made the movie. It's an okay movie. It's a fair movie. Again, Wes Craven knows how to write humor, and he knows how to direct it too. So there was a lot of humor in the movie. It was, it was kind of like, it's kind of like Coming to America, Nutty Professor playing different characters, different makeups. After that, his renaissance began with Scream in '96.
And then, of course, the sequels. But then the weird movie he did out of all this, though, Music of the Heart.
Nah, Music of the Heart. Okay, that's a weird. Okay, that was Miramax. Dimension. He made the two movies for Dimension, which is an offshoot of Miramax.
Right.
He told Harvey, "I want to make a movie. I want to make my own movie about something, and I don't want it to be hard." It's like, okay, go, fine, go do it. Fuck you, go ahead. Yeah. So he made Music of the Heart with Meryl Streep, which gets her an Oscar nomination.
Yep.
So he gets that kind of prestige. He gets a little prestige there for Music of the Heart. But then he goes right back to Scream 3. They were like, okay, you made your movie with Meryl Streep. Fuck you. Go make another Scream movie.
Now go make Scream 3 and shut the fuck up.
And then, unfortunately, after that, he gets Cursed, which is this movie he had to reshoot.
Yeah, and
I heard an enormous budget.
Yeah, I heard a lot of stories about Cursed. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes bullshit. You know what?
I'll tell you this. It's a movie that is shit, but it looks great. It's a movie that looks great. It's a movie, unfortunately, it was another movie where they wanted practical makeup effects, but they wound up doing CGI.
Yeah.
It doesn't look terrible. Now, I gotta say, there is an incredible jewel in the middle of this that a lot of people have not seen. Red Eye.
Yes.
Red Eye is an incredible movie. You've got Cillian Murphy and you've got Rachel McAdams, right?
Yes.
And it's almost like a real-time suspense thriller.
And it's
a great
short
film.
Fucking movie, too.
And it is a short movie, but it is a good movie.
Yes.
Everyone needs to see Red Eye. See this movie.
Red Eye just got a 4K, I believe.
Please try not to see Scream 4. Scream 4 was
no Scream. But, I told you, I watched Scream 5, and I liked Scream 5. And I will be watching Scream 6 tonight because that just dropped on streaming. And, of course, I ain't paying for it.
Is that the one that they decided not to use Neve Campbell?
Yep. But they still said it was a good movie without her.
Hey, can I get your? I want to get your opinion on that. What do you think of the fact that they dropped her and she wanted a bit more money for this movie? But the thing is, she is the girl in all these movies. She's the Nancy of these movies. So what do you think?
But they said this movie is going to center on newer care. I don't know, dude. Will not form my opinion. I will not answer this question until I watch the newest movie. I told you I did enjoy the fifth one. I enjoyed the fifth one more than 3 and 4. I said 1 and 2 are still great. 3 and 4 are meh. Scream 5 was actually fucking good. So,
Scream 1 is the classic for me. Scream 2 is okay. I saw that in the movies also. I saw Scream 1 and 2 in the movies. Scream 2 was okay. I didn't like that they killed Jamie Kennedy. Sorry for the spoiler.
No, that was 25 years ago, dude. I don't think it's a spoiler anymore.
Scream 3 was very much a big budget affair because these budgets got really huge. Scream 1 was a low budget film comparatively.
Yeah.
Scream 3 was kind of a muscle flexing movie with a lot of cameos. I think Roger Corman was in that.
Oh, what else? Jay and Silent Bob.
Was he in that?
Kevin Smith, Jay and Silent Bob were in that movie.
There's another movie here that I never saw. It's called My Soul to Take.
That movie was garbage. Do not bother.
It's Max Therio, Denzel Whitaker.
Yeah, it's dude. It was. There's a whole story about that movie too. It was supposed to be like this big 3D fucking movie.
Jessica Heck, Frank Grillo, Harris Yulin. It's got a good cast. Dennis Boutsikaris is in it.
I saw it.
It's got a good cast.
I saw it and it was terrible. So don't even bother. Like, dude,
it was made by Universal for $25 million. It didn't make its money back.
No, terrible movie, dude. Don't bother.
What do you think? What is it? It says it's a slasher film.
Dude, I've distanced it from my memory. I watched it once and I don't remember any of it. I didn't like it. It was okay. You want to know another movie I didn't like that a lot of people love? Okay, I'll just get to this point real quick before we got to move on. Fucking Drag Me to Hell. Everyone said good things about Drag Me to Hell. I'm sitting here in the corner like, this movie's crap.
I was really disappointed by Drag Me.
Yeah, and I'm like, this movie is garbage. Like, this is not R-rated Sam Raimi fucking bloodfest. This is just some bullshit with Justin Long and Allison Lohman who can't act their way out of Paper Bag.
I gotta I gotta say, White Oleander. Alison Lohman is a great actress in that movie. She's wonderful. She was also really good in Big Fish.
She was also okay. I'll say this.
She was also good
Where the
in
Heart
that.
Is. Where the Heart Is. She was good in that. Or no,
I'm not,
Where the
I
Truth
was
Lies.
thinking-
Where the Truth Lies. She was good in that
Oh,
movie.
I remember that one. Not a big fan of Adam Egan. She was good in that Ridley Scott movie, Matchstick Men. She was good in that.
Okay. Just seemed when she got older.
She could be a
it's
decent
just,
actor.
when she.
She's just that. No, when it comes to horror, she's just not good.
Yeah, I
never
guess
liked
you're
her.
right. It's when she's doing genre, she can't do genre.
She retired. She's no longer acting. She became a mother, and she became a homemaker, I guess. I just you want to say that this was a very influential movie. It was not a very popular movie at the box office, but I like to think it recouped at least with home.
Oh yeah,
media.
home
What do you think?
video got it to recover some money. This was post Ted Turner buyout at the time, so they got their money back off the home video sales, off cable, pay-per-view, all that stuff. The movie did find an audience, and now it's lauded as one of the best. People like to say it's one of the best sequels. I don't consider it necessarily a sequel. I just say in the franchise, I'll use that term loosely. It's one of the best of the franchise.
I would like to say also that My Soul to Take movie, it was the last movie that he wrote in addition to producing and directing. New Nightmare was the last movie he wrote and directed before My Soul to Take. Everything else was written by other people.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because Wes Craven, brutal honesty. While he did write a lot, he also did direct other people's stuff.
He did, and what's more, he survived. He survived making movies, and when a lot of other directors couldn't. We talked about Jack Shoulder, we talked about Chuck Russell, we talked about Rennie Harlan, we talked about John Carpenter, you talk about John Landis, you talk about George Romero. He survived, and his movies continued to get wide releases.
Yeah. Whereas some of those guys, when they were around, like Romero couldn't get a wide release. Like the last wide release movie he got was Land of the Dead, and while it was a good movie, it did not do all that well. I know your opinion differs on that movie versus mine, but I still like the movie. Didn't make its money back for Universal, and Romero said, "Oh, I'm done doing the studio system shit."
I don't. The thing, Romero always had a dicey relationship with studios.
Yeah.
And he did not want to do what they wanted him to do. Craven, I guess, was more agreeable. He was an English teacher. He was an English teacher. He was used to working with children, so that made him very easy to work with in the studio system.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, Wes was still, at the end of the day, he was one of the originators, and as an originator, he got to keep moving forward. I mean, the granddaddy of them all, out of all these directors, is Romero, if you want to think about it, because Romero's first movie was in the 60s, Night of the Living Dead.
He also made like a bunch of like sex films.
Yeah, I mean,
like Coppola, he started off in porn. I mean, like everybody, good directors start off in porn. Barry Sonnenfeld started off in porn too.
Yeah, some of the best start off in the adult business, but they move their way out. But hey, the old expression goes, you got to start somewhere, right? I mean, look at Rob Zombie. Before he started doing the White Zombie Band and fucking doing his other shit, he was working on Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yeah. A little bit of just a bit of an in memoriam for Wes Craven. He died on August 30th, 2015. He was 76 years old. A lot of people came out and praised him. David Arquette, Adrienne Barbeau, Angela Bassett, Bruce Campbell, Heather Langenkamp, Neve Campbell, John Carpenter, Courtney Cox, Joe Dante, Johnny Depp, Robert Englund, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Lloyd Kaufman, Jamie Kennedy, Rose McGowan, Kirsty Swanson, Edgar Wright, and Amanda West. Fantastic. That was just fantastic. Oh, I wanted to point out Johnny Depp. Wes Craven did want Johnny Depp to be at the funeral scene, and he wanted to ask Johnny Depp, but Wes Craven is apparently very shy.
Oh,
that's another thing. Film directors are very shy. He never got around to asking because he was shy. Johnny Depp said when he found out later, he said he would have gone. He would have shown up and not. He didn't even have to be paid.
I heard that story. I've heard that story before, but you just reminded me of it. That's terrible. Wes should have asked him.
I guess Wes is shy. If you look at him in interviews and you look at him acting in this movie, you can tell he is kind of a shy, soft-spoken, quiet
Meek
man.
would be the good way to put it. He's very meek.
Which is, I guess, interesting because to be a successful working
to be a guy who
in
kills
Hollywood,
people for a living, you wouldn't expect him to be this meek, like this.
Yeah, you would expect him to be like really loud and obnoxious.
Yeah,
but he's
you'd
not.
expect that, but turns out horror directors are some of the nicest people you could ever know. Like they're just nice people. I mean, look at Kane Hodder, for Christ's sake. Played Jason a few times. Does all
I met Kane Hodder, and yes, the man is very soft-spoken and very nice.
He's a hell of a nice guy.
He's very big too, I have to say. I shook his hand and he almost broke it. You know, not even meaning to. I also met who's the other one? Gunnar Hansen.
Heard he was a nice guy too. Everyone said Gunnar Hansen was a nice guy.
He had a interesting accent. Kind of talks like this. You know, he was one of those squareheads. He sounds like he's from Minnesota.
The only person I've heard of, there was like one bad story that floated around online, and it kind of tainted. His name was Tom Savini. Like, and they touched on it in a documentary, but I can kind of buy into it.
What, he's a douche? Or...
Somebody said he's kind of a dick. Like at cons, like he's kind of a dick.
I saw a documentary about horror films, and he talked about his experience in Vietnam and how it fucked with him, like his entire life.
Yeah,
and
because
it also informed his makeup work. So maybe he's a little bit, batty because of that.
I mean, I'd still love to meet the guy just to find out if he's a dick like they say he is, but some people have said he's kind of a douchebag. So
I would never call him Tom Savini. I would call him Sex Machine. How you doing, Sex Machine?
How you doing, Sex Machine? Good. I like that.
All right.
I like that.
Let's wrap this one up. This was a lot of fun, and we will be back next time to talk a little bit about Freddy vs. Jason, and then we'll talk about the remake that was made in 2010.
Yep, because this is a movie that, unlike Freddy does to his victims, we are going to tear that one to shreds.
I may not tear it to shreds as much as you.
Oh, come on.
Just to give you a warning. Remember, I'm a filmmaker, so I understand what was going on there.
I'm an avid movie watcher. I understand what was going on there, too. It was just called good idea, flawed execution.
Well, we'll get into that when we get into that.
All right.
Suffice to say, it was never going to be a fantastic film. We know that.
Oh, I knew that.
We knew that.
I knew that. But I expected it to at least be on par with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake from 2003, because that was actually a good fucking remake. I didn't expect.
And considering that you have Jackie Earle Haley playing the part, the man's a fine actor. He is a fine actor, but
but we'll get into that next week. So,
all right. So good night.
Good night, and like, share, and subscribe, everybody.